Hey, welcome back to Bearcats Daily. I am your host, Blake Thornton. Appreciate you tuning in on this Tuesday. Hey, so we got another recruit that we're going to talk about to start off the show. It is our second running back commit of the group. We used to have two previously, but remember, there was a decommitment from Javarius Warner. He did decommit to UC. So Roman Coney, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, being in Cincinnati. Coney, that's Coney to me. I apologize if I butchered it. 5'10", 200-pound running back coming into the class. 24/7 Sports does have him currently ranked as a 3-star recruit, so solid recruit. 68th running back overall for this class, 27th overall player in his state. He's coming up from New Jersey, which we don't UC hasn't typically historically recruited from there for football in terms of just extensively, but interesting. We're obviously expanding that reach of where UC can recruit from to get a larger player base. He did have offers from Syracuse, Connecticut, Duke, Wake Forest, and a couple others as well. So a pretty sought after running back. I really like this commitment. I'm excited to see him play for us. 2025, he had 160 carries as a junior. 967 yards and 15 touchdowns. This gentleman, his game film really does put out quite the extensive repertoire of skills for this running back. First thing I notice is he's got great vision and he's very patient when running the football. What does that necessarily mean? Well, when running backs go, they're not just getting the handoff, putting their head down and running as hard as they can to the one specific hole they're supposed to go to. A running back has to read how the offensive line is reacting to the defensive line's shift, stunts, slants, whatever the case may be. So what Coney's very good at doing is he is very good at reading the line and making his cut to the open hole and then getting to top speed. So he's taking that handoff, he's moving, he's keeping his feet moving, he sees the hole, and then he explodes to that spot on the line. Really like seeing that. It's something that I think is a lost art form in some sense because people think, oh, they just got to put their head down and run. Guys got to have vision. They got to be able to see where the holes are and to go with what their blocking is giving them. That's a very big thing. The O-line, depending on how the defense is responding with their shifts and their stunts, you're going to have holes open up that you got to hit that aren't necessarily the one that were there. So it's really good vision that he's got. Very quick on his feet, very agile. And the best thing that I like that I've seen is the first contact is not what brings him down. His yards after contact is very, very high. Typically, most of his runs, actually, he was getting contact at the line of scrimmage to 3 yards downfield, but was still getting 6-yard gains very consistently, if not more. Doesn't shy away from the contact either. When he gets to the outside and he's running towards the sideline, he's not bailing out and just stepping out of bounds. He's taking the contact, driving through him, getting that extra 4 or 5 yards from going forward instead of just running sideways out of bounds. That's a great mindset for a running back. Love guys that aren't afraid of contact and honestly kind of look for it. He's a bruiser. He's going to run you over and keep going. Always falls forward. Love seeing this kid run. Great pickup for the University of Cincinnati. Now, we talked yesterday about the NIL and how kind of the money is spread around depending on the school program. There are some rules for these athletes where they can't necessarily be sponsored by everybody. Now, I don't think this comes as such a huge shock to people that athletes cannot endorse gambling, sports betting, alcohol, PEDs, or adult entertainment. Now, I know we discussed how colleges have historically, since it's became more mainstream, they had sponsorship deals with major sports betting companies and gambling companies. Some of the most I'd say the most well-known is LSU and Michigan State were really big with Caesars Sportsbook. Colorado had one as well, and a lot of Nevada universities still have some deals with local casinos, but I think that Nevada's an outlier there just historically. UNLV's radio shows for the school, the coverage is sponsored by a couple casinos, so I think that one's a bit of an outlier when it comes to that. Now, obviously, we come back to the majority. A lot of those deals, including Michigan State and LSU, typically ended around 2023 when NIL really took place and there was a lot more of focus on the student athlete and what they were doing in terms of just the better overall general health of them. So a lot of schools did remove those major sponsorship deals in 2023. So I can appreciate that, but I do still see a bit of a double standard when it comes to those rules because they're saying that athletes themselves cannot endorse, we'll use alcohol. Let's use alcohol for the example. You can't endorse alcohol. Well, if I'm a student athlete, yeah, I probably can't drink. Makes sense to me. I can't endorse those deals. Those rules make sense. However, the university is still allowed to do that. That's kind of where I kind of like. So even if a player is old enough to endorse, let's say alcohol, if he's 21 or older, they still can't endorse it. But yet, UC in particular, I'm going to point this out. You look at who they all have when it comes to NIL stuff. They have some sponsorship deals. Some of I'm going to do a top three here. MedPace, they do their NIL agreements through their promoting career initiatives through them. That's how they get theirs. TQL, major sponsor for UC. I believe their sponsorship logo's even on the football field. They do a lot for the student athletes and a lot of donations to the school for that. And then you have Robinhood, which sponsors a In Her Likeness event every year, which has awarded hundreds of NIL deals and scholarship offers to female student athletes. So again, great stuff. I have no complaints there. However, Rheingeist, who is a local brewer here in Cincinnati, is a major sponsor with UC. They are a huge distributor of beer sales in that on the school for the games and things like that. Now, they also have MadTree and Great Lakes in there, so they're not as big as Rheingeist is in terms of sponsorships, but they still sponsor the school. That's who's serving the beer. And even a step farther, Rheingeist brews a beer called Cincy Light. Proceeds from the sale of Cincy Light, which was made as a kind of like not a partnership, but alongside of UC to make Cincy Light, and part of those proceeds do go directly to support the student athletes. So the university itself has a sponsorship deal that is taking money from alcohol, and that is going towards the student athletes. But an individual player can't endorse alcohol, especially at 21 or older. I don't necessarily understand that. And again, we might be picking at hairs here, and people are like, well, it's just making money. Who cares? Schools are going to do it. It's just part of it. They had sports gambling sponsorships. Yes, but if you're going to use the narrative that you are ending those sports betting partnerships due to the well-being for the student athletes, why is alcohol not in the same boat as that? That's just something where I think that the double standard doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I just have to question. Obviously, we're making money. The school's making money, which at the end of the day, we all know that's all it's about. The schools are making money. They're giving some back to the student athletes. I get it. It's all part of it. But it's such an odd look to have these campuses out there, all the universities that say we're looking out for the student athletes and doing this, but yet they still support and sponsor and advertise these products, these services that aren't necessarily you know, best for students. Majority of college campus students are not old enough to drink, but yet because of people coming to games and all that, you serve alcohol. I'm not saying that, but to say you can't be sponsored by it, but then you're going to even have them supporting the student athletes with part of the proceeds from the alcohol. I don't know. It's an odd dynamic, but it is a way for UC to make money and kind of build that NIL budget. We need them to have a higher budget, not because I think it's going to turn into an arms race like it is in MLB baseball where whoever can spend the most money is going to win. It's definitely heading that way for college sports. Nick Saban is leading that charge with other governors and representatives of universities to try to figure out a regulation of how NIL money has worked. Basically a floor and ceiling, basically a salary cap, which I do support. I think that'll benefit overall, it'll benefit college sports. There are some bigger programs who can spend money, can afford it. We're like, well, that just takes away, our alumni funding donations, and there's going to be some flack from the larger schools. But this really brings every school onto a level playing field, and it makes coaches have to recruit again. It's going back to the ways of how scouting and recruiting used to go before you could just throw money at somebody. Now they actually still have to recruit if this is passed. It's still going through the system for that. It has not officially been implemented, but it's definitely something they are working towards because it is pretty well known in the college world right now that college sports is headed for a disaster with how this money is working. It's really not hasn't benefited the system at all. And there's been many arguments. I have heard both sides of these discussions. Should athletes get paid? Should they not? You look at UC's roster and who they put out there. They build NFL talent. Their line, the offensive line alone, I think has 3 NFL players on it right now, led by Evan Tecumseh. Man, I butcher these names. I'm so sorry. But our left tackle, Evan Tecumseh, getting him, you look at these guys, our receivers, Caldwell, that went up there last year. We got Ronnie Miller coming in as a recruit, a 4-star. These are going to be guys that get into the NFL. Does that mean they should be making millions in college? No. And they probably won't make that much. They won't make that per season. But they definitely deserve something. But you're already getting a free education. You're getting a free place to live, free meals. You don't have any expenditures. Besides if you decide to go get a cell phone or whatever, if you get a vehicle. But you're getting everything you need to live. So that's technically getting paid to begin with. They shouldn't be making the millions of dollars. But that's neither here nor there. So I just, the more clarity on who can sponsor what wouldn't be too bad from the league. And I think it'll really help UC as a whole if we can get a regulation system for the NIL money. That way, obviously, they're going to keep it more level for all schools instead of just these major universities being able to just throw millions and millions and millions of dollars at players to get them to come into Cincinnati. And obviously, Cincinnati moving forward with a revamped roster and all the recruiting, it's definitely an interesting time post-spring with these guys because obviously the nation doesn't believe in UC. And we even have questions as well as fans that is that can this team perform where it was last season or surpass it? I personally think we have to surpass. But there's excuses. And a lot of the questions that I see out there in the world when they did these rankings is that the quarterback and roster turnover, is that going to lead to a down season? So ESPN, these are all Big 12 rankings. ESPN has UC at 13th, CBS 13th, 24/7 Sports 13th. It really seems like lucky 13 or unlucky 13 in this case is where a lot of the nation has UC picked to finish. It's not good. That's really not. And it's not going to benefit UC at all if this prediction comes true. I don't think it's far off the way that things are shaping up because we just don't have any answers to what this program is going to be. That hurts in recruiting. That hurts with sponsorships. That's people don't back losing programs. So we have quite a bit of, I guess, doubt in the media world when it comes to this team, and I can't blame them. There's more hype for UC basketball with a completely revamped roster. I'm talking no players from last season are on this roster. There's more hype there and more promise for them than there is looking at this current team. There is a reason for that, and it's not all negative here, but we have to be honest. Satterfield being the coach, having to bring in a new quarterback, new running back, new receivers, you really do have a lot of just unknowns with this team. So I think the rankings are accurate, and the good news is it really can't get worse than that. It really can't. So, yeah, we could go over and finish dead last, but does that really matter in terms of we're already at 13 and finishing last? No, not really. It really doesn't. So all the chips are in front of us to surpass that. And anything beyond that, I think anything above 500 is a success. And we've discussed that on here before. If we can go above 500, that's really a win for a program that just has no direction right now. UC does not have a direction for the football program under Satterfield. It's unfortunate, but I just think it's the case. I hope I'm wrong, and time will tell. But I appreciate you joining us today. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you have thoughts, if you have opinions, or you want to fact check me on something, please put it in the comments. I love to hear the feedback from all our viewers. And obviously, we'll just continue building this community. Appreciate FanArch for making all this happen and the new graphics. Until next time, I am Blake Thornton. Thank you for watching Bearcats Daily.